We had some interest from one of my constituents in Kihei. Is very concerned about this backyard slaughtering that's going on in South Maui. She's had a real problem with people that are slaughtering dogs and cats, and there was an incident in Kaului where there was a horse that was slaughtered. And so we're working on some legislation that will ban the sale and the consumption of dog, cat, and horse meat. Mm-hmm. And also looking at some legislation to go after those who participate in cockfights. So if you're in the crowd and you may not necessarily have the gaff in your hand or whatever, but if you're there attending it, it would be a petty misdemeanor. And the idea is to provide a discouragement from people to show up. They had a recent raid on a cockfight on Waipahu here recently, had over 500 people that were in attendance.
Wow.
Yeah, so these things have grown and grown. Mm-hmm. And again, I'm doing this legislation based on what one of my constituents wants to do with this. Mm-hmm. And we'll see if others find an interest in wanting to pursue this as well.
So we have a very interesting caucus package, and we are the only caucus that has put out a caucus package. We have yet to see a caucus package from the Democrats in the Senate as well as the Democrats in the House, but had a lot of great feedback. One of the bills that a lot of people have interest in is the graduating early for those students that are excelling. Surprisingly, a lot of people from the Filipino community. I spoke at the Filipino Chamber of Commerce this week, and I talked about how if their child excels or they want to move on to college, they could graduate early, and then the state of Hawaii will use the money that they would normally use to educate them in the high school to give them a $5,000 credit at University of Hawaii. So it all stays within the state system. Mm-hmm. I was very surprised to hear that many of the schools within the Filipino communities, or maybe it's just the immigrant communities, where they're really excelling, but they're taking multiple college courses anyway. And so they could instead go straight to college and open up those excelled classes to kids who are apparently on a waiting list. So have anyone given you any feedback about that bill at all?
I have not personally heard anything. Maybe I'll defer to you.
Yeah, I really haven't either. I think the big issue with in my community that I'm getting the most traction on is an area that's really not my area, which is the flooding that occurred in my district in December and January of this year. And I'm still getting emails, and we did a mail-out postcard to everybody in Kihei, asking them what they thought the concerns were, and I would say probably 95% of it was concerns about what happened with the flooding, mm-hmm. and it's just still on everybody's mind. They're really upset about it and wants to know what the county is going to do and what I can do, and all I can do is help the county out and provide support, or if they need something from this end, and they need me to make phone calls or do whatever it takes to right the issue. But there hasn't been much discussion at all about the package, ironically, and I think that's the reason why. I think people are still kind of not really paying attention to what's going on over here so much as they're more concerned about what's happening in their own backyards.
Well, one of the great things we have in our package that we hope will pass, and we're not sure if it will, is requiring the legislature, at least in the House of Representatives, where we can control, to choose a Speaker of the House within 45 days after the election. As many people can state here that a lot of things didn't get done. People don't realize you can't use the print shop. You have to move offices. You can't get a permanent office. We didn't know who the committee chairs were until just a few days ago. And so hopefully that bill will pass. Are there any particular bills that's close to your heart within our caucus package that you think your constituents will be really interested in?
I think there's a lot of good ideas in there. So I think obviously, I hope they resonate a lot with our constituents. But I do think we've got a lot of economic and I think one or two tax measures, and those are going to be helpful because right now, cost of living and pocketbook issues are what a lot of people are still worried about. You know, the economy may be recovering, but it's not necessarily robustly growing, and that's why I think I'm glad that we inserted some measures in there that I think will ultimately lower the cost of living here and grow the economy and create some jobs for some folks.
How about you, George?
I really like the export piece that we did to encourage new businesses to export products and services from here, from Hawaii, because the whole idea of stimulating, you know, growth in that area, we really need to start focusing on you know, attracting businesses to be involved in manufacturing or producing products from here locally and exporting them all over the world. I use the example on Maui. We know there's a gentleman that I know that has a jelly and jam business, and he's been wanting to start expanding his business and exporting to Japan. But because of the shipping costs, and it seems like such a huge financial mountain to climb to get set up to being able to do that, he hasn't been able to do it. So I'm hoping this piece of legislation will be able to provide him some tax credits. And ultimately, you know, everybody talks down about tax credits, you know, because there's no ceiling and there's no, you know, bottom line in the financials to say it's going to cost X amount. And that's why people tend to oppose them. There's no light item for that. But my answer to that is that if he is able to expand his business, it means he's going to be able to pay more taxes, for one thing, because hopefully his business will grow. He'll hire more people to work for him because he'll have to increase his production. And so they will pay taxes. So I believe that these types of things are a win-win. And I hope it gets passed. You know, I hope people will look at it. But I know, already speaking to some of my counterparts on the other side, you know, they're not very happy about giving any kind of tax credits. So,
and if I can interject, because I think where we often short shrift Hawaii is we think, well, you know, certainly we're not an industrial manufacturing hub, but it doesn't mean that we aren't an exporter of things. And what we have to do as a state is come up with a cogent, cohesive, market-based strategy of what we can produce and what we can export. And so, you know, for instance, whether it's diversified ag or, you know, I was stunned to learn that we produce most of the world's seed corn. And, you know, that's not something you regularly hear, but that's something we're exporting. And again, that helps to diversify the economy. And if policymakers and those who are in the executive branch proactively think about what is a market-based, you know, based in reality and what consumers are going to buy, but what makes sense for us to produce, whether it's fish. You know, I'm glad to see that the aquaculture industry is sort of burgeoning here, and I hope it reaches critical mass because those kinds of industries make sense for Hawaii, and those are products that, you know, would be great premium products to be sold, you know, made in Hawaii, and that there's a market for elsewhere abroad and in the rest of the United States. So it can be done.
Well, Texas is a great example. They have some of the lowest taxes in the nation, and a lot of people from Hawaii are moving to Texas right now because there's so many jobs being created there. And there is a balance, and their government in some areas is suffering because of the international economy, but they are having more businesses move there, so they're going to recover a lot faster than we will. I think why some businesses were concerned about Governor Abercrombie's speech is he's kind of, half of his speech is still continuing that Democrat philosophy that we're going to tax our way, or tax the private sector to pay for a grown government sector. And so he still is kind of treading in that direction. Mm-hmm. He unfortunately wants to take money away from our biggest money maker, and that's the Hawaii Tourism Authority. And I understand that a lot of people are concerned about that. He's going to take $10 million from being allocated to them to pay for other things. We're not really sure what yet. And so if we somehow convince the rest of the legislature and show them that other states are thriving right now because they aren't taxing their people so much and because they're bringing more investment to their states, you know, hopefully they'll turn that around, but we'll have to see what happens in the state legislature.
Well, and also of concern too is that he also mentioned that he was going to now treat the the timeshares is the same as a hotel. And that brings in a whole other issue, because that's a hotel and a timeshare are two completely opposite things. These are people who buy a slice of ownership into a condominium. So you have maybe 10 owners or 15 owners or whatever that own the unit, and they purchased it. They pay property tax on that. It's very different than a business that's operated as a hotel. And timeshares aren't operated as hotels; they're operated as dwellings. They're actual apartments which people own and live in. And sure, there are clubs that you can join that have a slightly different kind of model, but it's an interesting step to go in that direction of going after the timeshare market. So
when you go to a hotel, you don't get charged property taxes.
Right.
So this is a whole, I wonder if he's aware of that.
I don't know. He does. Again, that's why it's so difficult to really comment at this point, because we haven't really seen his budget. We won't see it until, what is it, mid-March?
Yes.
And then it's
It'll
really
already be out of the House's hands by then.
Yeah, and we'll be faced with dealing with a lot of these things in a real crunch mode, and I hope it doesn't require us to then extend the session in order to deal with some of these issues, because we have such a late start this session. Just finding out our committee assignments, what was it, yesterday? And
a few days ago.
A few days ago.
Last week, end of last week.
Yeah. As of this taping, folks.
Yeah. We have a couple minutes left. Is there any last words you would like to share with the public?
Just that, for all of our talk about the gravity of the situations that we're facing, there are a lot of creative people in this building who are focused on getting the job done and making sure that we come up with real solutions for Hawaii's problems. And I'm proud to be part of a caucus that is able, willing, and ready to do that. And I think part of a legislature that is also doing the same. So, the people should take heart.
I would echo what Aaron has said. Regardless of party lines, I think the bottom line is everybody here in this building realizes that they work for the state of Hawaii and for the people, and nobody wants to see the state fail. Nobody wants to see the state go bankrupt. And we're going to work real hard to get those ideas out there and really make a difference this session. And I hope at the end of the session you will be proud of us.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us here with the House Republican Caucus in our show called Better Government, where we are watching every single dollar of your taxpayer money. Please know that it is going to be our mission, and we commit to all of you to work with our new governor. We want to see him succeed, because if he succeeds, then you will all succeed as well. Please call me anytime at 586-9730 if you have any questions. But please know that we are here to serve you as your House Republicans Caucus. Mahalo and aloha for joining us.